Hello everyone, I am Manat. Today, we are going to do a challenge run of Shin Megami Tensei If, where I can't use any Guardians. I've been wanting to try this one for a while, as I have seen another YouTuber trying a No Demons challenge before, but I want to do this a little differently. I have wanted to try YouTube out for a while, as I've been interested in becoming a YouTuber, so I thought that this run would be a good opportunity to get my feet wet with YouTube and see whether I want to pursue this. Anyways, let's set up the rules for this challenge. Number 1. No Demons. We're not going to be using demons at all, so we can't use them for healing, Estoma, and the likes. Instead, we're going to be using items to either heal, cast Estoma, or cast Mappa. Number 2. No Guardians. Guardians provide stat boosts and spells to human. We do not want to give human spells or any stat boosts at all, so they're going to be left out of the equation. Number 3. No magic on humans. Just like I said, we are not going to have any Guardians, and since Guardians provide magic, we can't use magic at all. Number 4. Save states and speed up are allowed. SMT is a pretty old game, and there are some quirks from its time. One of them includes slow dungeon crawling and very sparse amount of save points. I will put a save state during dungeon crawling and before bosses, but not during fights. And finally, number 5. We are going to be playing this game on normal mode. Normal mode is considered the original difficulty of the Super Famicom version of SMT. Since this is a challenge run, we are going to be sticking to normal mode. Now that we have gotten the rules established, we can now start the run. Let us beat SMT without using Guardians. We start going into some machine, and Nova, this whitehead thing, asks us for a gender and a series of questions. I choose to play as the female protagonist, so I name her, choose the first answer of each question to end up with a strength build. As we finish this segment, we see a boy named Hazama, and he declares himself the Demon Emperor. He does his monologue, and we wake up in the classroom and Karako's like a high, just in time for the school to go to hell. Yumi, one of the game's party members, offers to join us. I say no, and we also see Charlie next door, and I say no to him as well. Because the person I want to join me is Reiko, and she is currently in the music room in the first floor. But before she joins us, we have to get some gear from the school clubs and talk to a couple of NPCs. And then once we do that, she joins up with us. So on the way to the boss, we beat up Agaki, we get a comp from one of her teachers, we see Hazama again, and we finally head to the gym to meet Faunus, our first boss. First attempt, not so good. So, we grind a level or two, and we attempt him again. He is not really that hard, he has barely any health, and his hits don't really hit too hard since we leveled up a little bit, so he goes down pretty quickly since we are prepared. Once we beat him, we receive the Ring of Modesty, a special item that opens new worlds in the Expanse. Once we head outside the gym, some student tells us that we need to head to Otsuki's lab. And once we get there, he attacks us. Otsuki is somewhat the same thing as Faunus, where he doesn't have much health, and he isn't much of a pushover. And after a few turns, he goes down. Now that he is defeated, we head to the hub world. Put the ring in this room to form a black hole. And now is the time to finally enter the Expanse to stop Hazama. Our first stop is the World of Pride. It's not a really long dungeon, since it's meant to ease the player into the gameplay of SMT. Early game with this dungeon is pretty rough, though, because I kept getting poisoned and charmed by these zombie students, and had a few close calls around here. So, to mitigate this, I ended up grinding at the very start, around where the entrance is, so I can quickly access a nurse's office and get a free top-up. I am aware that there's a fountain of life right in front of me, but that place costs Maka, and I need the Maka for supplies, so that is a no-go for me. Something I forgot to mention at the start of the video is that I am currently playing the PlayStation version of SMT. My main reason for this is the updated 3D dungeon crawling and the speed of battles. I also know enough katakana and hiragana to understand the basic spells, but the only drawback of this version is that, well, it has no English translation yet. Other than that, in my opinion, I think that people should be playing this version for the quality of life features, but for more people to play this version, an English patch has to be released, and we won't be able to see that for a while. So if you want to play this game in English, I recommend playing the SNES version instead. After leveling up to around level 10, I can finally explore the dungeon and start preparing to fight the boss of Vine. I'll buy whatever I need in the shops, open some treasure and loot its contents, level up some more, and now we are at the front of the boss room. The first attempt did not go so well, as he uses Mahazionga, wiping out Reiko in one hit and putting me close to death. Then he usually casts a Zionga after that, which knocks me out. So I level up once more and try again. This attempt goes way better than last time, as his Mahazionga does way less damage than it did before, and now I have a chance to not get pummeled to death. He does the occasional Dia, but it does not take that long for him to go down. After the fight, I have gained the Ring of Moderation. So, I quickly head out of here, go towards the hub, insert the ring into this black hole, and now I have unlocked the World of Gluttony. This dungeon is maze-like, but it isn't as bad as an upcoming one which you would see later. But before we continue on, I want to give a piece of advice for anyone that is looking to play this game. I have been putting some of my stats into agility every so often, and this is because agility determines whether you strike first in battle or escape in dangerous situations. When I was at this dungeon, I was at around 10 agility, and this caused me to escape most of my battles, and I barely got ambushed by enemies. In other games, agility might not matter, but in these older SMT titles, they actually matter a significant amount. Not like in the levels of SMT 4 magic type of broken, but a stat that plays a big role in exploring and battling. Anyways, we get access to a town area with new weapons, armor, and recovery items. I was stock up on disc poisons and disc paralyzes, or dispalaise as they call it here. The main boss of this dungeon specializes in those status ailments, and having some ailment healing items will help a lot, especially since I don't have any access to any demon with Patra, Basumudi, or any skill like that. Now that we have enough money to get better equipment, and we leveled up enough as well, we head towards the next boss, Orcus. Or so we think. Right where you will meet Orcus, there's a room near the safe room, and we'll meet with Otsuki again, although a little messed up. He wants to get revenge from earlier, so he finds us. He is the same as last time, but with better stats and better skills, but not better enough to live long enough to defeat us. When defeated, he drops the Microplasma, which is needed when we meet Orcus. Or so we think. It turns out we need to enter Orcus' stomach. For some reason. I know what's in there, but I just still find it kind of weird. Anyways, we make a trip back to the town, get ourselves ready, and we use the Microplasma on ourselves, causing us to shrink, and now we are inside Orcus' stomach. Aside from the disgusting looking interior, this dungeon is pretty short, and the enemies aren't that hard, unless you count spamming poison moves hard. After traversing Orcus' intestines, we make our way in front of the room where the true boss of this dungeon lies, Parasite. He usually would spam binding and poison moves non-stop at you. However, if you are prepared as I am, and by that I mean being level 19 and having ailment healing items, he dies pretty quickly. After that, it turns out Orcus was the school's principal. And as he leaves, we obtain the Ring of Diligence. Now it's time to talk about the casinos in the dungeon. At the start, the prizes aren't really that worth getting. However, when you beat Parasite, the prices update. And this includes really good gear and items. So, we immediately head there, grab some coins, strategize on how to win the games, and we have enough coins to buy everything in the shop. This has the very powerful King Frost set, which includes the King Frost rod and armors. The only issue with this set is that it's only equipable by males, for some reason. However, there is a very useful roster candies, or luster candies as they're called in the modern games, as well as the Ceiling Ball, which boosts all stats by 1 and casts a Stone Mod respectively. I try to get these items as much as I can, and I'm set for the rest of the game. As soon as we get our items, let's not waste any more time and head to what is considered the most infamous dungeon in all Omega 10, the World of Sloth. So this dungeon explains itself perfectly. It is slow as hell, and you're gonna have a lot of patience. Or you can use speed ups, but that doesn't really matter right now. You'll find out once you get in here. You will notice that the dungeon only has 3 floors, and they seem really easy to traverse. However, the basement 3rd floor is where it matters. You see, there are hallways that lead to chests, but the catch is that there are students and faculty digging holes around these chests. Now what really sucks is that they dig into the next room every 1 moon cycle, which is the number at the top left of the screen. So from what I noticed, the moon cycle doesn't take too long, but it does take a while as well. Since this dungeon is going to take a while, I finally have the time to talk about a few things about this game. I noticed that when I casted a Ceiling Ball, there were no enemies at all, not even in the 3rd basement floor, where there's a highest encounter rate. It turns out that once the Stoma runs out, enemies start to appear again. I thought that the Ceiling Ball cancelled all enemy encounters, so I was worried that I have no Stoma at all in this run, because no encounters means no XP, no money, but it turns out that I was over leveled for this dungeon. I was level 19 at this point. I just decided to keep using the Ceiling Ball because I just don't want to deal with the encounter rate. In all, my experience this time wasn't too bad. but I still miss out on some XP. Now, another thing I want to talk about is why the hell does this game have bullet counts? In other Super Famicom SMT games, the bullets were considered an infinite resource. Yeah, they'd be like 10,000 Maka or something, but you can use them the whole time. However, in SMT If, the devs for some reason decided that bullets shouldn't be infinite like the other games, and this logic carried over to the PS1 games. In this game's easy mode, bullets are infinite, which doesn't really make sense since other PS1 games still retain the infinite bullets. It's one of my biggest gripes with this game, especially since the PS1 version of SMTF came out after the PS1 versions of SMT1 and 2. So I kind of assumed they would do the same thing here, but I guess Atlas doesn't seem to agree. One more thing I want to talk about is that in the PS1 version of SMTF, there is a gem duplication glitch where you can receive 99 of each gem. To start, there is a Rags jewelry in the domain of Sloth somewhere, and once you enter it, you must have at least 2 jewels that you own, like for example an Onyx or an Aquamarine. And now you follow these steps. Select trade for element. Select the 2 jewels that you own. When Rag asks to confirm your purchase, say no. And finally, when going back to the gem selection screen, select the jewel you do not have. When Rag denies the transaction, check your second selected jewel. The count should increase by 1 every time you do this. The importance of jewels is that they provide good items in the shop, like how pearls provide somas and rubies give revival beads. Another use is that they have stat bonuses tied to them. If you get at least 9 of a jewel, your protagonist's stat will go up. So even in this part of the game, having endgame stats will make the rest of the game a breeze. In my case, I am not going to do this, but it's just something you should know if you get stuck or you just want to cheese the game, however. Now that we discussed what we wanted to discuss, after going back and forth for a long time listening to the same soundtrack on loop, the students dug deep enough where we can finally access the room with the Ring of Generosity. As soon as I acquired the ring, I immediately head out of this dumbass dungeon, and I don't care for the treasures right now. I'll come back later or something, I just don't want to see this dungeon as of this moment. Now as I head back to the save point in the school, we meet a Cerberus, and we ended up dying because I didn't want to move out of its way. Cerberus is too strong for us right now, but we will come back later for it. Something to know is that you can move out of the way, and you can have access to the save point again. He will just be in another room in case you want to fight him again. I didn't know this as I was playing, so it's good for somebody else to know this. Anyways, we now head to the hub area, put the Ring of Generosity in the black hole, and we now have access to the world of Envy. This dungeon's layout is significantly different from what we've seen before. It now has dark rooms, comp jamming rooms, and the likes. What's even worse is that Reiko leaves the party near the start of the dungeon. Some blonde guy just comes out of a room and she just leaves my party chasing after him. So now I am alone, with so many demons roaming around. It doesn't help that I am actually under level for this dungeon, since I used a stone for the previous dungeon the whole time, and many demons are kicking my ass every single step. It seems that this dungeon is not going to be an easy one. However, there is a special item near the end of the dungeon that will make the trip worth it. As soon as I grind some levels in Maka, I buy the necessary equipment needed, and I head straight towards the prize. After traversing this confusing dungeon with sliding floors and teleport mazes, I finally reach the room where the Hino Kagutsuchi lies. The sword is one of the most powerful swords in the game, and to get the sword, you need to have a high ranking guardian equipped, but the issue is I do not have access to that. There is one way to overwrite that. Another way to get this sword is if you survive this long without a guardian. Since I have no guardian, and that's how I've been playing this whole time, I am able to acquire it and equip it on my protagonist. As soon as I get the sword, I immediately head straight to the boss of this dungeon, Lilith. Usually, Lilith will spam status elements like Charm, Happy, and even a Spider element, but I have the Hino Kagutsuchi equipped, so she gets melted to bits after a few slashes. After Reiko wakes up from her trance, I obtain the Ring of Unselfishness. Reiko finally joins back into the party, but she seems pretty underleveled. I'll get to that later on, but for now we must bring the ring to the hub area. However, as soon as we head out, we are stopped by Otsuki again. Same thing as last time, better stats, some stronger moves, but again, not enough health to last a few slashes. As I head back to the school, it's time to have a rematch against Cerberus. I actually thought this would be easier since I have Hino Kagutsuchi now, but I forgot that Cerberus actually drains fire. I did not think of this when I fought him, but fortunately he can still be charmed with charm bullets, so I kept shooting him while he kept hitting himself, and he eventually goes down after a few turns. Before we head to the next dungeon, I want to mention a spot in the World of Envy where you can get a special sword, the Muso Masamune. You can get the sword when you enter a room in the town area, and some guy gives it to you after talking to him. Something to note is that I recommend getting the sword after saving either Yumi and Reiko, as some people stated that this event doesn't appear again when talking to him before saving them. Now about the sword, this sword isn't too bad at this point in the game. It has a base power of 97, hits 3 to 5 times, and each hit can inflict a sleep ailment. What this sword is special for is sword fusion. With this sword, you can turn this sword into a powerful sword by fusing it with other swords and demons. But for this run, I am not going to do that because sword fusion takes time and effort to do, and playing in a language that I don't understand will make demon interactions pretty tedious. After that, we head to the final world of this game, the world of Greed. This dungeon is a big one, where there are 2 parts to this place, an outer layer and inner layer. You have to traverse the outer layer enough to reach the town area, which is in the inner layer, and then you have to traverse the inner layer to reach the boss. There's also a casino near the entrance of the dungeon, but at this point there's really no need for me to be there right now. I was having an easy time defeating the earliest encounters until I reached an area where more powerful demons lie. Even in this dungeon, I was still somewhat underleveled, but with the new Hina Kakatsuchi, most demons burn to ash, except for the Jinns and Dekarabias, where they reflect and drain fire respectively. I finally reached the town area. As I stock up on the supplies, I noticed the Daybreak armor set. This set on paper resists holy spells, but it would be useless to have on because most humans in the SMT series have a natural nullification to holy spells. What it doesn't tell you is that this set actually has a hidden resistance to dark moves. What's even better is that it reflects dark moves. Now that's a really powerful set of armor, as a certain boss near the end of the game uses dark moves, so this would be really useful. The catch is that the Daybreak armor set is only equipable on females. In my case, my party are composed of 2 females, so this works out for me. On the way to the boss, I encounter rooms full of magical chests. You might think that this is a good thing to see, but you gotta remember the name of this dungeon. In reality, you aren't supposed to be too greedy and take all these items. If you do, this affects the stats and form of the boss. But I want a challenge, so I collect all the items in these chests and challenge Chefe. This boss has a special gimmick. Its form changes on how many items you collected from those chests. Since I collected them all, I got Chefe's most powerful form. You would think that this boss would be hard, because it has higher stats and high HP count. This form of Chefe has a lot of resistances, but guess what? Chefe's strongest form is actually weak to fire, and the Hina Kakatsuchi is a fire-based sword. So guess who's gonna get burnt to ash? Since I know this, I start spamming Rasta candies with Reiko and start striking with my protagonist. Chefe isn't really hard. If you are as well prepared as I am, you won't really find any difficulty beating this boss. If you aren't prepared, the opposite will happen. All in all, this fight is really easy, and it doesn't take too long for Chefe to go down. After the fight, we earn the Ring of Unselfishness, but Otsuki takes the ring, and now we have to chase him down to his lab, where he's looking for a final fight. This time, he has more powerful moves and better stats. You would think that this would pose a challenge at this point in the game, but with enough Rasta candies and slashes from the Hina Kakatsuchi, he finally goes down. We get out of this dungeon, put the final ring in the black hole, and we can finally ascend the top to challenge Hazama. The high school dungeon doesn't have anything significant, except for very powerful demons. I use most of my time grinding my team a little more, just to level up and skip mostly everything except the Angra Mainyu encounter. He is located in a specific part of the dungeon, but I recommend trying to defeat him because he does provide a lot of XP and a rare weapon. The weapon is exclusive to males, but it isn't bad to have. Once that's finished, I head straight to the top floor to meet Hazama. While Reiko tried to talk with Hazama, he rejects her pleas and challenges us to a battle. So Hazama is a big step up in terms of difficulty. He has 20,000 HP, his normal attacks hits 3 to 5 times, and the funny part is that he actually has a max intelligence stat, which is kind of funny, since he called himself an exceptional human at the beginning. However, would that intelligence stat be put into use? A little bit. He does have Debilitate, which would be very bad since I don't have access to Dekunda. However, we still have a Rasta candy stashed in our inventory, so we use those to counter it, but it still isn't enough. His attacks hit hard since we are barely level 50 with half max vitality stats. What's really helping us in this fight is our agility stat, where it is higher than Hazama. This means that my party goes first most of the time, and that gives me breathing room to heal and buff up. Other than that, the Hina Kagetsuchi is still doing its job since it's doing around 170 damage per on average. Our damage could be higher if we level up a bit more, but it could be fun fighting him on this level. So we end up in a cycle of damaging, healing, buffing up, until he eventually goes down. After the fight, we gain the final Ring of Deliverance, and Reiko says that we have to enter his mind. This is the final dungeon of the game, and we are very close to finishing it. It isn't a large dungeon, but it has a good amount of teleporters inside. On the way, we see Hazuma's memories, which showcases his past. There are a few of these in here, and they're optional, but they do provide a couple of insights on Hazuma. A few moments of teleporting later, we reach the room where Hazuma lays. With the levels gained and items bought, we are now ready to truly defeat Hazuma. So his final form is his giant baby thing. But don't write off his strength because of his looks. He has 30,000 HP, higher stats, and very deadly moves. First of all, he gains access to Megiddo, Debilitate, and Dekaja. With those moves, they do pack a big punch to my party. It doesn't mean that his other skills and normal attacks don't hit as hard as these do. I can counter most of his moves if I keep up my Rasa Candies, Life Stones, and Beads. However, his most deadliest move is his Soul Cluster, a curse type move that can guarantee an insta-kill to any enemy. This will be devastating to anybody that is not immune to any curse type moves. But remember, I still kept the Daybreak armor that I got during the Domain of Greed. This is what I meant by having this armor set. It is required on any human female, since they won't be insta-killed every time Hazuma casts Soul Cluster. You can also use something else like a Makara Karn or Final Saves, since they are effective as well. However, it will be harder if you rely on humans only. People say that the female protagonist is harder compared to the male, since she has lower health and has no access to the King Frost Weapon and armors. But just having a cursed nullification for this game is much more worth to have. Even then, you can still get the Hina Kagetsuchi, which any gender can equip. Anyways, as we battle, Reiko does go down, but I revive her with Return Bead, heal her up, and continue battling. We are close to finishing this battle, but of course my sword has to have a 0 through 7 hit rate. And sometimes the sword either doesn't strike or it keeps missing. Maybe I should have increased my luck or agility stats or something? It doesn't help that Hazuma keeps spamming Debilitate and Dekaja, which cancels my buffs. Nonetheless, he also keeps spamming Hamaon and Marin Karin, which we nullify due to humans' natural ability to bless and the armors blocking curse types respectively. And we keep this up until Hazuma is no more. We watch Hazuma break down, Reiko comforting him, and then Reiko tells us to leave Hazuma's mind, with her staying with her brother. We say goodbye to our demons, and we are teleported back to the entrance of the school with our stats reset. We open the doors to the outside world, saying that everything is finally back to normal. And that is Shin Megami Tensei If with no guardians. This game has a mixed reception with fans of Megami Tensei, especially with the World of Sloth tainting people's perception of the game, which I do agree with, but in my case, I really do like playing SMT If. It has the most polished gameplay out of the 3 PS1 Shin Megami Tensei games, and it is the shortest out of the 3. I beat this game at around 7 hours of gameplay. Admittedly, this game is also pretty easy to beat, and it doesn't pose too much of a challenge unless you are unprepared, but I still do recommend picking this game up. After this challenge, I had thought of doing the same thing for Akira's route. However, I played some of it on easy mode and it's still really challenging. It doesn't help that the route itself is really hard, and even with easy mode, I am still struggling to make progress. As I demo it more, I might pick up some stuff and eventually turn this into a challenge video. But for now, this is going to take a back seat. I just want to thank you all for watching this video and listen to me ramble throughout it. I wanted to try this YouTube thing for years, and I finally found the spark to try it out. I actually want to try to make more YouTube videos, mainly Megaten videos, but I'd like to have a variety of games and topics to cover as well. I already have a couple of Megaten challenge videos thought up, and I'd like to bring them into fruition. I also plan on making some videos where I yap as well on any topic that I like, if some of you are into that. That is if I have the time to do so, as I'm still attending school, but I can figure that out eventually. Anyways, thank you again for watching this video. If you have any comments, suggestions, or anything, please comment them in the comment section. Please like and share this video to others, and if you are anticipating for more of my videos, then please subscribe. It will mean a lot to me. Thank you so much, and I'll see you later.